Welcome to Pretty Lies and Alibis. Let's seek the truth and travel the long road to justice together. What you know, Alibiers, welcome to another episode of Pretty Lies and Alibis. I'm Gigi. Good to have you here. It's Thursday, February 26th. After a very short day in court yesterday, we picked back up with the crime scene technician Chelsea Gibson on the stand. They asked the USPS agent that was he only there to look for evidence that may have come through the mail? She said he was also there to test for drugs had something been found. They did examine one car, but not Eric's. I assume Kouri's, but then later she said a red truck, so I don't know whose is whose. They didn't specify. On the April 13th search warrant, this was for electronics belonging to Kouri and Eric. Did you find Eric's computers? No. At some point, did you take his computer into custody? The witness found one in his office. The defense asked through Ty Gabler, and she's not sure who turned it in. Gabler is the private investigator. You're responsible for everything turned in during that search warrant. Was the computer entered in on that day? And she doesn't remember. What about items from Kouri Richins, Eric's business partner? She said he did turn in either a computer or a hard drive. They bring up a list of dates when the home was searched. It was searched 9 times between March 4th of 2022 and then December 19th, 2024. And then the defense points out they were back there February 6th of this year. And she says the obvious, you were trying to find evidence of what happened before Eric's death? Yes. On the April 13th search warrant, where did you find those hydrocodone pills? They were found in a laundry room in the cabinet, but she was not the one who located them, but she did collect them. And there were approximately 10 left. They were in a bag and not a prescription bottle. If you find it loose, is there any way for law enforcement to look at it and say this is from the street or a drugstore? And she says, no, not on scene. Going back to the photos of gummies, and the defense says 2 baggies have no commercial labeling. And then she shows a photo of the ones with commercial labeling. I want to point out here, between the medical examiner and the toxicologist, neither one of them said Eric had THC in his system because Kouri's claiming these gummies were laced with fentanyl. As far as the green jacket that had gummies, they did not take that in for testing. What was the purpose of the May 8th, 2023 search? And that was to obtain additional electronics, documents, and any drugs found. But they never found fentanyl in the home. What was the purpose of the October 24th, 2023 search? She said to collect more electronics. October 31st, they returned and they were looking for copper cups, those Moscow Mule cups, and drugs. They found several of those cups in the kitchen. Defense. Kouri stated they had a gift of copper cups and then had a drink. That corroborated her story. She said Eric took gummies and you found those. And then she used a sheet to pull him to the ground and you found that? Yes. The witness said the private investigator told law enforcement there were items in the house worthy of going back for. The defense asks, how many times did that happen? She said twice. The first was a recording device and the second one was for a letter. The defense says the jury has seen photos from that night and there was no letter on the bed. And there were 7 searches prior where that letter wasn't on the bed, and she agrees. How many times was the private investigator there with you? She saw him once. For every witness that was interviewed, it was taped? Yes. Did you become aware that with 2 witness interviews, the audio or video was missing? She vaguely remembers that. This was for Nick Bonsavage and Nancy Peterson. She doesn't know to this day if those interviews have been located. One search, you took an Apple Watch belonging to Eric, and it had a mass amount of data. The witness said, I wouldn't say a mass amount of data. Defense, it wasn't deleted? She said that the Apple Watch had very little data on it. Defense, so it wasn't deleted? She doesn't know. Here's the thing. If Kouri wiped that to give to her son, it is very possible over the course of when that happened to when the search happened and they got the watch that maybe the kid put apps on there or Kouri put apps on there. Did the private investigator take possession of evidence before giving it to law enforcement? The witness said, other than the computer, no. On the November 7th search, you found an EpiPen. She said, yes, they found one in the kitchen and then one in the master bathroom. They also found syringes in the master closet on the top shelf that were unused, and they found a syringe in the kitchen. Now remember, Eric was taking testosterone. You inject that. They did test the one in the kitchen, and she's not sure what it was positive for, but I can guarantee you if it was fentanyl, we would hear about it. They talk about quetiapine pills. She said when they opened that bottle, there was one pill that had been cut in half. How many jackets would you say were in the house 3 years later? She said a lot. And you chose to take that one, meaning the one of Kouri's? Yes. Defense, there was a brown and red truck. Which was searched when you were logging? And she doesn't remember. Defense, you don't know the truck Eric drove daily? No. When was the canine search? The witness said that was April 14th, 2022. Was the canine running through the home? She said yes, but she does not know if the canine went to any vehicles. On redirect, March 4th, the day Eric died, did you have a search warrant? No. Were you legally able to search anything you wanted? No. She said they were searching for medications that could be misused, and they did not find the hydrocodone that day. The defense gets back up and says on April 13th, 2022, the first search conducted with a search warrant. You weren't in the house from the night he died to that day, and you were looking for fentanyl. They were looking for any drugs. Defense. The truck that was searched was the red truck. Was there a brown truck at the home on the 13th? The witness doesn't know, but if it was there and something was found, she would have been made aware of it. The defense puts up photos of commercially packaged gummies and the ones in clear baggies they found with that first search warrant on April 13th. Were those sent to the lab? I believe so. She shows another photo, which is a green jacket that was hung in the closet. She didn't look to see if that was a men or women's jacket. Defense, the black Under Armour jacket you got that day with a search warrant. Why did you get that one out of all in the home? And the witness said it had a pair of tweezers and a piece of plastic in it. As far as the phone calls you booked into evidence, were you involved in downloading, storing, retrieving any secret phone calls? No. Would you go back if you missed things? And the witness said they obtained additional information so they would get a search warrant. Defense says a minimum of 10 times, and the witness says yes, with additional information and things that they did not know to look for prior to this new information. Defense, you can search if someone consents, and Kouri didn't stop anyone from searching. The witness didn't have any interaction with Kouri. You knew from the minute you got there, someone was making allegations that Kouri was involved in the death. The witness said, not when I got there. There were suspicious circumstances and some allegations that day that she knows of. Did you go to Kouri and ask, can I photograph here or there? May I have those cups in the sink? No. And that was it for her. She is subject to recall. The next witness, Dr. Brianna Peterson, she is a forensic toxicologist. I'm going to make this really brief because we're talking about numbers that make my head hurt, and I suck at math. So she explains they do a broad drug screen for a number of drugs. And if they get a positive, they'll do more specific tests to that drug to confirm those original screening results. In Eric's body, fentanyl and norfentanyl was found. Norfentanyl is a metabolite of fentanyl. So when your body is trying to get rid of drugs, it breaks it down to get rid of it. However, she points out there was nothing else detected like opioids in his system, and no mention of THC, by the way. She explains that hydrocodone stays in the body of a half-life for 4 hours. That's how long it takes for the concentration to go to half. All of the drug would be eliminated within 20 to 30 hours of ingesting. When someone dies, does the drugs freeze in place? The witness said in general, it's like a snapshot of what was going on prior to death, but some drugs like cocaine can be broken down after death. And post-mortem distribution is after death because the pH of your blood and the permeability of tissues start to change. The blood may seep out of the organs and into neighboring blood, so it's being redistributed due to the changes your body is undergoing after death. So blood may not show the concentration right before death. If it did seep out, it could increase the amount that is seen in testing. For a lethal dose of fentanyl, the defense says it depends on your levels. If you're a chronic user, you have a higher tolerance. But someone who hasn't taken fentanyl, a lethal dose could be what? She said 3 nanograms per milliliter, but Eric had 15 nanograms per milliliter, and that is 5 times the lethal dose. Acetyl fentanyl is only seen in illicit fentanyl, not in prescription fentanyl. They get into some very technical stuff of nanograms, and we're going to just cruise on past that. Eric had 900 milligrams of ethanol in his body. So, for comparison, 14,000 milligrams of ethanol is found in a standard alcoholic drink. Also, ethanol can be a product of postmortem changes. Is it fair to say it would take 30 minutes for fentanyl to show in the bloodstream? The witness says it's a lot of factors like, is the stomach empty, or was it in pill form, or was it injected? But it could take 30 to 60 minutes for it to show. The defense asks, we know he ingested fentanyl, so that would mean he didn't inject it. The witness said it could be both, but fentanyl in the gastric content, their interpretation is at least he took it orally. Then you have norfentanyl, which is a metabolite. The defense asks, is it possible someone could die of an overdose and you wouldn't see this in their labs? And she says correct. Defense, first exposure, the first time they take it, you could take it and die very quickly, and you don't get the norfentanyl in your system. But when you see a high dose and you see norfentanyl, the body has started to metabolize it. After the fentanyl was ingested, he was alive long enough to metabolize, and that would be more likely in someone that it was not their first time taking fentanyl. The witness says, I do not think you can draw that conclusion. Defense, it's more likely someone who used it, someone would metabolize it quicker than someone who never took it, and the witness does not agree with that. Is it possible he took the fentanyl and then took a drink 15 to 30 minutes later? The witness is like, I can't give a timeline of when things were ingested, and a sip of alcohol is not measurable. Defense, that dose of fentanyl would take around 20 minutes to die. The witness said you can't gauge that. Sometimes it can take longer and you're just in respiratory distress, but you're not dead yet. The next witness was very brief, Frank Root. He's with the Summit County Sheriff's Office. And they talk about phones that he got from Mr. Grossman. Mr. Grossman is Kouri's handyman lover. He got a white and a black phone, and he got those at the same time. He was asked to return those phones to Mr. Grossman, and then he was asked to pick them up again. Defense asked, how many times did you do that? And the witness said more than twice. Did you have a reason why you had to keep coming back to get the phones? He said, I was told by my chain of command. I don't know why. In those times, you don't know what he did with that phone? No. Did he show you things on the phone? And the witness says they were not operable. Did you take operable phones from him? The witness said when he got them back, they were operable at that time. Did he give you any reason why the phones weren't operable? And the witness said he broke them on accident. So that was it for him. He will be called back at a later time. The next witness was Chaney Ingtao. He's with Digital Forensics, and he explains how he downloads data to make it readable. Once he does that, the information is given to the sheriff's office. He was given the passcodes to the phone by the sheriff's office, and once that data is downloaded, it cannot be manipulated. And that was it for him. He's setting up for whoever is going to come on and tell us what was on those digital devices, which is what I am looking forward to the most, because I think we're going to see some stuff that's going to be very explosive we haven't seen before. Just a hunch. The last witness before lunch, Brian Holden, he is with the State Crime Lab, and he is a senior forensic scientist. He examines unknown substances and determines if it's controlled. He goes through and explains the process a lot more. It's technical, but you get the point. On cross, he was only asked to test for fentanyl. He was not asked to test items from the home to see if they contain hydrocodone or oxycodone, and he tested a total of 19 times. There was an issue with some questions, and so the judge broke for lunch, and that is where we left off. I'll be back later today with the afternoon recap. Hope you have a good rest of your afternoon. We'll see you soon.